You're listening to Supernatural Japan, the podcast that explores the dark corners, haunted legends, and forgotten histories hidden across the islands of Japan. I'm your host, Kevin O'Shea, and today we're heading to the quiet coastal city of Kaizuka in Osaka Prefecture. It's located near Kansai International Airport, and to be honest, you'd think it's part of Osaka City itself. It's a peaceful place now. Seaside air, family homes, the hum of daily life. But on the outskirts of town stands a ruin that time itself seems to have abandoned. The remains of a children's tuberculosis sanatorium. Once, it was filled with laughter, lessons, and the promise of healing. Now, it's a skeleton of its former self. Windows shattered, ivy crawling through broken walls, and stories whispered about voices that still echo in the halls. This is the story of the Kaizuka Children's Sanatorium, a place where medicine met mystery and hope slowly turned to haunting. In the early to mid-20th century, Japan faced an epidemic so widespread it was known as Kokumin-byo, the national disease. Tuberculosis, or keikaku, claimed hundreds of thousands of lives each year. Before antibiotics, it was almost impossible to cure. Doctors believed the key to treatment lay in sunlight, clean air, and rest. Across the country, sanatoria were built in the mountains and along the sea. Remote facilities where patients could be isolated and given the best chance to recover. The Kaizuka Sanatorium was one such place, designed specifically for children. Long corridors lined with open windows faced the ocean, allowing in the sea breeze. Children slept in narrow iron beds, bundled in blankets, resting on verandas where the sun could reach them. Inside, there were classrooms, a dining hall, and a small playground. Nurses lived on site, teachers held lessons. There was even a small art room where patients could paint and draw. The idea was to make life as normal as possible, even though most of the children knew they wouldn't be going home anytime soon. But tuberculosis carried more than sickness. It carried stigma. Families often hid their children's illness, afraid of discrimination. For some, the sanatorium wasn't just a hospital. It was exile. By the 1960s, new antibiotics like streptomycin changed everything. TB cases plummeted. Across Japan, once crowded sanatoria fell silent. Kaizuka's facility lingered on for a while, eventually converted into a special needs boarding school. But by the early 1990s, it too was shut down. When the final caretaker locked the doors, the place was left to decay. Vines crept through windows, paint peeled away, children's artwork faded on the walls. Desks sat in empty classrooms, waiting for students who would never return. By the early 2000s, Japan's haikyo explorers, urban adventurers who photograph abandoned sites, rediscovered the sanatorium. They described eerie scenes, rows of rusted hospital beds, medical records scattered like fallen leaves, and strange murals painted by children long ago. It didn't take long for the stories to start. Locals began whispering about the sound of coughing echoing at night, or the faint laughter of children heard on the breeze. Some claimed to see small handprints appear on fogged glass. even though the windows were broken and open to the air. For the Kaizuka residents, the site became Kodomo Byoan no Obake Yashiki, the haunted children's hospital. Abandoned hospitals hold a special place in Japan's imagination. They're everywhere in modern folklore. From haunted house attractions to horror games, ghost tours, and TV specials. During the 1990s, Japan experienced what some would call a haikyo boom. Some people might call that the UrbX or urban exploration boom. Explorers ventured into the ruins of post-war hospitals, psychiatric institutions, and sanatoria, photographing them for books and magazines. These hauntingly real locations inspired countless works of horror, including films like Infection, Kansen, and video games such as Fatal Frame and Siren. Now, in the 2000s, while I was living in Kobe, Japan, I did a little haikyo for my YouTube channel, but not a lot. And I was a very big fan of the abandoned Kansai website. The urban explorer behind the site always had the most amazing photos and explorations from around Japan. He also had some of the best pictures of this specific abandoned hospital. And I'll share those links in the show notes. And he made some posts back in 2012 and 2016. And from what I gather, there isn't very much left of that site today. But this fascination isn't just about ghosts. It's about memory. Hospitals, like the one in Kaizuka, were once filled with hope, care, and suffering. When they were abandoned, they became symbols of a painful past, disease, isolation, and forgotten people. For many Japanese, the ghosts said to haunt these places aren't merely spirits of the dead. They are the lingering presence of history itself, the unspoken memory of those society left behind. And that's why, in lists of Japan's most haunted places, you'll almost always find an old hospital, such as Hachioji's Green Hospital in Tokyo, or the abandoned wards of Nara Dreamland's Infirmary, and the forgotten children's sanatorium of Kaizuka. Each one a place where silence tells its own story. Japan isn't alone in this fascination with haunted sanatoria. Around the world, these once hopeful hospitals have become magnets for ghost hunters, filmmakers, and urban explorers. In the United States, there's Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Kentucky, one of the most infamous TB hospitals in the world. Tens of thousands of patients passed through its doors during the height of the epidemic, and many never left. Visitors report hearing screams echo through the old death tunnel, where bodies were once transported out of sight to spare other patients the horror. Across the Atlantic, there's Severall's Hospital in England, an enormous psychiatric facility built in the early 1900s, notorious for mistreatment and experimental therapy. Even after its closure in the 1990s, people claimed to see figures moving through its crumbling wards and hear the faint ring of a long silent call bell. In Italy, the Poveglia Island Hospital near Venice is sometimes called the most haunted place in Europe. Once a quarantine station and later a psychiatric hospital, it's said to be the home to thousands of restless spirits, the remnants of plague victims and patients alike. And in Canada, the Tranquille Sanatorium in British Columbia tells a similar story. A once bustling tuberculosis hospital turned ghost town, where visitors report strange lights and voices drifting through abandoned hallways. These places in Japan, America, Europe, and beyond all share the same haunting paradox. They were built to heal, but ended in silence. Their ghosts, real or imagined, remind us that even acts of compassion can leave behind echoes of suffering. By the mid-2010s, much of Kaizuka's sanatorium had been demolished. Only fragments of buildings remain today. Foundations, staircases leading nowhere, and scattered debris hidden by thick vegetation. But legends are harder to erase. Even now, people in Kaizuka talk about strange lights glowing in the ruins at night, or voices calling from the direction of the old hospital after dark. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, the story of Kaizuka Sanatorium lingers because it captures something deeply human. It reminds us how quickly places of care can turn into places of sorrow, and how the walls that once echoed with life can become monuments to silence. In the ruins of Kaizuka, the line between history and haunting blurs. The ghosts there may not just be those of sick children, but of a nation remembering what it once feared the most, the fragility of life and the cost of forgetting. You've been listening to Supernatural Japan. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it. Follow the show and leave a review wherever you listen to this podcast. It helps others discover these strange and forgotten stories. Now, of course, to see photos of the Kaizuka Children's Sanatorium, I'm going to put a link in the show notes to those abandoned Kansai posts that I'd mentioned. I'll also be posting photos of the Kaizuka Children's Sanatorium on the Supernatural Japan Podcast Instagram. So please go and follow our Instagram over at Supernatural Japan, and you can find lots of great content over there. Check out our Facebook group for videos and photos as well. The link will be in the show notes. Now you can find me and follow me, the host of the podcast, Kevin O'Shea, over on Blue Sky or X at Mad for Maple, where I post lots of spooky things and a lot of things that aren't spooky. To be honest, most of the things I post there aren't spooky, but they are interesting. I am, a 23-year Asia-based expat. Of course, I would ask you guys, this is going to be the call to action. It is October, it is spooky month, and as you guys have been noticing, I've been putting out 2 episodes a week this month, and I'm going to ask you guys, if you enjoy the show, to please help the Supernatural Japan podcast grow. Please repost the podcast, recommend it to your friends, and share it on your own social media. Now, if you want to shoot me an email, you can over at supernaturaljapan@gmail.com with ideas, stories, anything you want to say. You just want to say, hey, Kevin, what's up? I like the podcast. Please email me. I'd love to read. Now, you can support the podcast over on Buy Me a Coffee with a one-time donation, or you can become a member. Links are in the show notes. And that's it. One more thing I'll also mention, I'm going to throw a link in the show notes. I do have another podcast, which is kind of a personal diary podcast. Just all about me as a Canadian long-term expat in Asia. That's called the Tales from Kevin podcast. Check that out. The link is in the show notes as well. That's it, folks. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe in the shadows.